Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Coming up, porn star Stormy Daniels now being cross-examined by her former attorney, Michael Avenatti, representing himself for stealing her money and trying to make her out to be a total nutter. Before I get to the Stormy Daniels story, Houston PD has just tweeted this out, that SWAT and hostage negotiation teams are on scene of a barricaded male suspect inside a home in a particular area of Houston. The suspect fired multiple shots at SWAT officers. No officers hit. The standoff is ongoing. This is the same suspect who shot at 3 Houston PD officers earlier today. Sean Larkin, real quick, this is obviously a dangerous situation, but it seems like now the officers have the opportunity to do exactly what you're saying, which is to be careful, be strategic, and try and get them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when you've got somebody barricaded inside of a home or a structure, time is on our hands. We can slow things down, but a lot of that's going to be dictated by what the suspect is doing. You know, from what we understand, he is in there by himself. They're essentially going to create a perimeter around the home so that he can't flee or hurt anybody else. And then they could start going through their options. Obviously, they want the guy to come out through negotiations. They want to try to solve this thing peacefully. Despite everything he's already done, they still want to get him out of the house peacefully. Now, if he presents another threat, shooting at officers, they've got a precision rifle operator, you know, in a position. They can end that thing with just one round fired from the police side of things. Otherwise, they will try to negotiate with him, and at some point, I imagine they will introduce, you know, chemical munitions, gas to try to force him out of the house and into custody.
We will stay on this, and Styx will be checking in with you later in the show regardless. Thank you. Stormy Daniels testified today in a Manhattan courtroom against her former lawyer, Michael Avenatti, who then had the chance to begin his cross-examination of her. This after a federal judge ruled that Avenatti can represent himself, so he gets to cross-examine her himself. He's accused of pocketing $300,000 from an advance that Stormy Daniels got for her memoir. The adult film actress born Stephanie Clifford went into detail about how she was struggling financially when Avenatti agreed to take her on as a client. She said in her testimony today, quote, "I explained to him that I didn't have a large deposit or retainer to spend, and I was concerned about finding someone I could afford." They had an agreement, apparently, of $100. Daniels testified. Avenatti said it'll be $100. A copy of the attorney-client fee contract was entered into evidence, showed that they indeed agreed upon a one-time payment of $100, and that Avenatti's, quote, standard hourly fees and out-of-pocket costs would come from any legal defense fund established to recuperate that money. Daniels testified that her relationship with Avenatti turned in February of 2019 after the literary agent forwarded her wire transactions showing that Avenatti had forged her signature in August of 2018 and diverted her second and third advance payments to an account that she was unaware of. She said on the stand today, quote, "He stole from me and lied to me." Now, after nearly day-long questioning by the government, Avenatti began his cross-examination. Now, he told a very skeptical federal judge he wants to subject his former client to a 6-hour cross-examination. The judge said, "We'll see about that." Avenatti's really just trying to make her out to be a nut so far, saying, quote, "You've claimed that you have a perfect memory, haven't you? And that you can see and speak to dead people, haven't you?" Daniels, "Yes, I've said that." Avenatti also questioned Daniels' knowledge of contracts, quote, "You generally know what a contract means because you've signed hundreds of contracts." Daniels responded, "Absolutely." Avenatti followed up saying, "And in fact, you've in the past mocked other people for not reading or following their contracts. Isn't that true?" Stormy Daniels saying yes. Avenatti has pled not guilty. This is his third federal criminal prosecution. Now, in the case where he was accused of extorting Nike, he was convicted, sentenced to 2.5 years. He had lawyers in that case. But then in another case where he's accused of stealing from clients, he represented himself. That ended in a mistrial. Joining me now is the attorney for Stormy Daniels, Clark Brewster, who was in court today. Thank you very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. Let me ask you, how does your client feel about having Avenatti himself asking her questions and trying to make her seem crazy?
Well, it does give really kind of real meaning to the Sixth Amendment right to confront your accusers, doesn't it? Directly in that courtroom, not through a lawyer, but through the actual accused. She was fine. She this morning, as we talked, it was very, very relaxed and confident, and she just knows the facts, and she just laid them out very carefully.
Is she at all intimidated by having to go up sort of one-on-one with her ex-lawyer, or is she sort of looking forward to it?
I don't think Stormy's the kind of person that gets intimidated. She's very, very confident, careful thinking, honestly, bright young woman. I'm very impressed with her. I've represented her now going on 3.5 years, and I don't think she's intimidated.
So what is Avenatti talking about when he's referring to a contract? He's saying, oh, you've signed contracts before. You know what a contract is. Does he have something in his back pocket here that he's going to show that demonstrates that they had some other kind of agreement?
No. What he's going to do is try to diffuse and just kind of get off on a tangent in some way or another. It's a very interesting thing here because we live in a time where communications are mostly in writing with texts and WhatsApp communications. And if these would have been oral, he might have been able to slip and confuse this jury. But there's a series of communications that I think create just an unimpeachable story about his deceit, his lies, and his cover-up, and getting other people to lie as well to conceal his theft.
Do you think he's going to try and get your client angry, upset on the witness stand? Do you think that's part of his goal here?
If it were me being accused of taking someone's money, I would start immediately with, this is where the money is, and this is why it was transferred, and this is the accounting. I wouldn't start with, you see dead people, don't you? I mean, so it's obvious that he does not want to deal with the facts. She's going to be very, very knowledgeable and specific about the facts. She's not going to be fearful or intimidated. It'll be interesting theater tomorrow, though.
When she hired you, did she say something like, I haven't had the best of luck with my previous lawyers?
No, actually, what she did is she came to me and said, they've taken these book payments and sent them to Michael pursuant to this authorization, and I don't know why they did it. So when I looked at it, I said, well, is this your signature? And she said, yes, it looks like it. And then the only thing she had there was the fee agreement. And I looked at it, and it certainly looks very much like it. And then I realized it really is. It's identical. Going through the lines above, it was obvious. It was a cut and paste job. And that's when I realized that it was a real serious issue, and then looked at all of the communications surrounding that to put myself in an understanding as to what was the truth. And that's what happened.
So you were partially responsible for exposing what happened here.
Yes, what I did, Dan, is I looked at it, and I didn't want to believe that a lawyer would have done this, but once I saw the communications, once I confirmed with the document examiner, this wasn't definitely a cut and paste job. There's no explanation for why you would do that unless you were trying to conceal or take advantage. And then I called Michael and tried to have a conversation with him and try to get another side of it. And once I saw the whole picture, there was no choice. You had to communicate with law enforcement and do the right thing. So I did that.
Finally, do you think he's really going to cross-examine her for 6 hours?
I don't think it would be wise. I think if he's got something that is meaningful, that sheds some light on his actions, he should do that. But I think to harangue and try to insult and confuse the jury will be not a good strategy.
Clark Brewster, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. I enjoy your show. Very good. Thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot. Coming up, Justice Stephen Breyer's retirement has been red meat for cable news. We will take you through some of the most controversial and outrageous takes from both sides. That's next. Time now for our Mediaite Moments, where we check in on the day's bias, buzz, and bull in the world of cable news and beyond. News broke yesterday that Stephen Breyer will be retiring from the Supreme Court after 27 years. It was big, not really surprising news. Many on the left have called for the 83-year-old to step down, giving President Biden the seat to fill. Still, many on cable news, in particular the pundits, seemed sort of unprepared for this news based on some of the truly wacky takes that came forth from the right and left. Much of it as a result of President Biden's campaign pledge to appoint the first black woman. Of course, that immediately spawned debate and led to this prediction from a Newsmax host.
For Democrats, there could be no better choice than Kamala Harris. Not because she'd make a great justice, she wouldn't. She would be a left-wing activist. But tapping her would give Democrats a chance to rescue themselves for 2024, following Joe Biden's epic failure as president here.
Interestingly, it was only folks on the right who were suggesting that Vice President Harris should be a SCOTUS nominee, which no one thinks is actually going to happen. But Newsmax's Grant Stinchfield took it to another level of bonkers.
Weak, but what if, folks? What if he picked Hillary Clinton to be his vice president? Oh, boy. Then what if he picks Hillary Clinton and then decides to resign a short time later? Hillary gets the White House and then ultimately the chance to run as an incumbent.
What if? What if Breyer's retirement leads to President Hillary Clinton? Now that is a Newsmax fever dream. But it wasn't all on the right. The Nation's Elie Mystal could not resist making this dig at Trump's nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, while on MSNBC.
Because I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact, but I am pretty sure that Joe Biden will not nominate somebody who has been credibly accused of trying to rape somebody when they were in high school.
Then there was this hot take from my friend Sean Hannity.
To exclude certain candidates based solely on race and gender is beyond extremely divisive. It may even be illegal.
It's not illegal. But look, I have been critical of Biden's promise to appoint someone of a particular gender and race to the court because I believe the pledge ends up undermining the person who ultimately gets picked. But at the nearly exact same time that Sean was saying that, his 9 p.m. rival, Rachel Maddow, dug out this from the archives.
Ronald Reagan today promised to appoint a woman to the Supreme Court if he's elected president. Reagan said he made the promise to set the record straight on his attitude toward equal opportunities for women.
All right. But perhaps the most controversial take came from Fox contributor Tommy Lahren.
But I'm wondering the kind of justice that he would nominate. Now, again, I'm sure it will be, as Guy said, a black woman. He's got a dedication to that. We saw how well that worked out with Kamala Harris. But here's to hoping that he has a better choice in mind for this position.
The most charitable interpretation of her comments is that she meant to say that nominating someone strictly based on their race and gender can end up with the wrong person for the job. Another interpretation, the comment was that a black woman might not be up to the task, which of course would be racist and dumb. So I'm hoping that's not what she meant. That's our wrap up of the day's Media Bias Buzz and the Bull. Coming up, Dan Bongino throwing it in YouTube's face after being deplatformed, while Joe Rogan's still in favor at Spotify. But should these tech giants be in the deplatforming business at all? That's next. Earlier this week, music legend Neil Young made waves by reportedly demanding that Spotify, the world's most popular music and podcast streaming service, take his music off their platform over the company's refusal to censor podcaster Joe Rogan. Not surprisingly, Spotify, recognizing that the Joe Rogan Experience host has way more cultural clout these days than the Heart of Gold singer, decided to drop Young's catalog from its library yesterday. Rogan and Spotify have been criticized since the Joe Rogan Experience released an episode with Dr. Robert Malone, a physician with a history of highly controversial statements related to COVID-19. The interview shined a spotlight on Rogan's history of COVID vaccine skepticism. Earlier this month, a coalition of more than 250 doctors and public health experts signed an open letter to Spotify urging the company to take action against Rogan and others spreading disinformation on the platform. And on Tuesday, U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy all but called on Spotify to cancel Rogan's deal with the company over those COVID views.
We've got to recognize that our technology platforms, whether particularly social media, these have an important role to play. These are the predominant places where we're seeing misinformation spread. These platforms have still not stepped up to do the right thing and do enough, I should say, to reduce the spread of misinformation.
Murthy's call to action was heeded by YouTube later in the week when they banned right-wing radio and Fox News host Dan Bongino for life yesterday after repeated violations of the company's misinformation policies. Bongino used 2 accounts to post content. He had one of his channels suspended earlier this month after saying that cloth and surgical masks were useless to stop the spread of COVID. Last week, before the initial suspension was up, Bongino posted another video to a different channel under his name, repeating the claim about masks, earned him a second timeout. On Tuesday, with his second suspension still in place, he posted another video, prompting YouTube to remove his channels permanently for trying to skirt their rules. Today, Bongino took to upstart video streaming site Rumble, popular with the anti-vaccine crowd, to taunt YouTube over his ban.
Little old me, kid from Queens. Public enemy numero uno by the YouTube commies. There was a ton of press coverage. We were trending pretty much #1 on social media all night yesterday.
And Bongino continued his victory tour on Fox News tonight. Now, look, I find Bongino's brand of vaccine and more general COVID skepticism absurd. I support the vast majority of the scientific community on masks and social distancing. But I will say I also now question vaccine mandates with the recent data that being vaccinated may not make someone any more or less likely to transmit the Omicron variant. But as Bongino pointed out on his show today, the Surgeon General and the rest of those calling for Rogan and his ilk to be deplatformed are drawing more attention to their controversial takes. While YouTube dumped Bongino, Spotify stuck by Rogan, who rakes in millions for the streaming service, and I think it is unfair to lump in Rogan with Bongino on this. But I do wonder whether these tech giants ought to be in the deplatforming business at all, beyond the most shocking and offensive violations. Joining me now is Frank Sesno, founding director of Planet Forward and the director of strategic initiatives at George Washington University's School of Media and Public Affairs. Frank, great to have you on the show. What do you make of that? Do you not worry about these tech giants being in the deplatforming business?
Of course I do. I worry about anybody being in the deplatforming business. I mean, I'm a big believer in the First Amendment. I'm a big believer that you actually have the right to be wrong. You have the right to be outrageous. And so the question that I always wrestle with is who makes these decisions based on what, against what threshold of public harm or public good?
And so what is your take on the YouTube decision, for example, on potentially Spotify deplatforming Rogan? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is more broadly when it comes to COVID, what is being called misinformation. Do you think that some of these major figures should be gone?
Probably. I mean, as I say, I think this is something that is really difficult and you grapple with it. It's why some people beat them up, the platforms, for deplatforming people, and others beat them up for waiting so long to deplatform people. You're a doctor. You know what causes illness and death. And you know that someone is out speaking not just publicly, but very, very publicly with a following that people are following, and they, as a result, are getting sick and dying. So you post rules. None of this is a surprise, by the way. The platforms have been very clear in what they consider disinformation. They warn people. They give them 3 strikes. It doesn't come out of the blue, and these folks do it anyway. I mean, you've got Robert Malone out there talking about mass formation psychosis and saying that's why people believe in vaccines. That's not why people believe in vaccines. If you believe any doctors or any science, despite what you said a moment ago, Dan, that people who are vaccinated have 90% protection against serious illness and hospitalization. You know that the vast majority of people who are hospitalized now, and I've spoken to doctors and nurses as of you, who are hospitalized now and very sick, are unvaccinated. So this is information that actually traffics in lives. So I think that it's fair game to say, at what point do you cross the line?
Yeah, but just to be clear, what you're talking about is a different issue from whether it's more transmissible, whether you have a vaccine or not. Meaning, I totally agree that when it comes to your personal health, and there is no question that getting the vaccine is a good idea. That's a separate question from whether you put other people at danger by going out to a restaurant, whether you're vaccinated or not, when there's no evidence currently that makes a difference on Omicron. But that's not, that's for another day on the sort of debate over the specifics around the medicine. But I want to get back to this deplatforming issue, which is I am concerned that, are we going to now say, okay, anyone who's an anti-vaxxer is off. Anyone who's out there against vaccines for their kids for the measles, for example, you're done. You're off. I'm concerned about the precedent that this sets about this particular vaccine, in effect, being treated differently than they have any other vaccines, for example, in the past.
Well, I think, Dan, I think your comments and your concerns are very fair, and I share them. I think it's a very, very thin layer of ice that we've got, that we're skating on when we're talking about deplatforming, taking away someone's right to be heard. However, here's how I look at it. I spent many years at CNN. I spent many years as a gatekeeper to the information that reporters could put on the air, or that I put on the air. We had to have certain levels of sourcing. We had to have certain levels of the ability to document what we were saying. And if we didn't hit that standard, the story wasn't approved, or we were taken off the air, or if a reporter did something that was crossing the line frequently enough, they were fired. You lost your job. We have an equivalent situation here, in my view, where there are people who have mass audiences, who have mass followings, and they don't have a gatekeeper. They have a social media.
But that's the point, right? But that's the whole point.
Exactly.
Is they don't want the Frank Sesnos of the world deciding what they can put on and what they can't, right?
True enough. Dan, can you stand up in a movie theater and yell fire and have people trampled to death on the way out and there was no fire and not have any responsibility for that? No. We actually have law on that. And the way I see this is a similar sort of thing. And these folks know they're doing it. I mean, they know what they're doing. But do you have the right to say the vaccines are a hoax and they actually will kill you? You have the right to say that. You're not going to end up in jail, but you may not have the right to be on my platform and say that if I'm a private company and I've set a threshold of behavior that I'm going to demand and publicly have stated for people to be part of that community.
No question they've got a legal right to do it. The question is it the smart thing to do? And there is no quote unquote right answer. Frank Sesno, thank you for coming on the show.
We'll do it again.
Coming up, men being discriminated against at the gym. Yes, the creeps who hit on women while they're trying to work out just won a big legal victory in Connecticut's highest court. That's next. Do women-only workout areas in gyms discriminate against men? Should gyms be able to protect their female members from getting hit on by or ogled by creepy dudes by dedicating areas for them? Part of that question has been at the heart of an ongoing legal battle in Connecticut after two guys got tired of having to wait to use equipment at their local gym and they sued, asking why should they wait when there was plenty of equipment in the women's only area, which no one was using. And guess what? The highest court in the state of Connecticut, the state Supreme Court, just agreed with them, saying that gyms were discriminating against the men based on their gender. In a unanimous 6-0 opinion issued this week, the state justices wrote that, quote, the defendants' gyms are places of public accommodation that have denied the complainants full and equal accommodations on the basis of their sex. Now, the gyms had argued that their female customers should be able to go to the gym, work out, and not be objectified or hassled by Hans and Franz next to them, which does happen at workout facilities where membership is mostly male. Edge Fitness saying in a statement after the court's decision, quote, while we respect the court's decision, we remain proud to have offered the positive service of our women's-only studios to our members. We listened to our members and fought the case on principle, and we believe in fighting for women's rights and the Edge Fitness clubs. We are committed to keeping our gyms safe and stress-free places for women to work out. Joining me now is Quinnipiac University School of Law professor Kevin Barry. He filed a brief in this case in support of the Connecticut Human Rights Commission, which took up the suit on behalf of the two men involved. Kevin, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it. So are you surprised by the ruling from the court?
Thanks for having me, Dan. I'm not. I think it was the right result, but probably not for the most obvious reasons. So what the court did here, so the takeaway is that language in a law matters a lot. Language in an anti-discrimination law matters a whole lot. And what the court says is, we are looking at this statute, there is no exception for women's only sections of gyms. There's no exception in the law. What Edge Fitness wants us to do is to come up with an exception, to create one based on the comfort of our members. And what the court says, and there's a bit of legal reasoning, but one of those reasons is if we create this exception that these gyms want us to create for customers, the comfort, this could actually be used against women. For example, imagine a golf club that has a men's only section because the men are just uncomfortable being around women. The same could be said of cisgender folks who want their own section because they are uncomfortable being around trans folks. So this is what the Connecticut Supreme Court says. We cannot create this exception out of whole cloth. But what it does do, in the second to last paragraph of the decisions, it says, you know what, Edge Fitness, Club Fitness, you're not sunk. You can get your way, but it's not with us. It's with the legislature. They amended the law once before, or many times before. They can amend it again. So that's probably the next play. I'm not surprised. I think this is the right result.
Kevin Barry, I'm sorry to cut our conversation short, but we've got some breaking news, which we're going to be reporting on the other side of this break, coming out of Houston, Texas, where those 3 police officers were shot. So thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it. Let's take a break. We're going to have some breaking news. We're also going to show you some video, unbelievable video. When a man starts firing, his target behind the wheel is someone he knows well. We're on the scene with this explosive dash and body cam footage, as well as the breaking news out of Houston coming up in a moment. We're on scene tonight with police in Buena Park, California, showing the dangers that officers face across the country. Police responded to a call of a man shooting at a school bus on a busy street. The suspect, Cedric Baxter, was trying to kill his wife, who was behind the wheel. A 6-year-old student was on board.
Trying to run over the school bus.
32 coming. What's the answer from?
Car 15 traffic. Let me know units go through, please.
I'm from 31 and 35 right now.
We're south on Western Front of Orange Road now. I believe the shot at the school bus. Turn around and off the road.
Police chased the suspect, who sideswiped a car and rammed the bus with his SUV. When the bus pulled into a parking lot and got away, the suspect kept the chase going. He led them to the school district's bus maintenance yard, circling the parking lot, then back onto the road, nearly hitting a police car. Minutes later, Baxter drove back to the bus yard, ramming through a locked gate.
We got people back here in the school. You guys got to jam them up. We got to stop this. We got
Saw that there. Baxter smashed into a parked vehicle in a carport, completely pushing it out of the space. As Baxter got out of the SUV holding a gun in his hand, officers fired. Baxter died at the scene. Baxter's wife had a restraining order against him after a domestic violence incident. He had also violated his parole and had removed the GPS tether he had to wear as a registered sex offender. The Orange County District Attorney's Office is reviewing the incident. Joining me once again, Sean Larkin, retired Tulsa Police Lieutenant. All right, Sticks, tell me what you're thinking when you're seeing that moment of them shooting him.
This guy is kind of going back to what we were talking about just there in Houston. You've got somebody who is a continuing threat, a person who's out in the public who poses a threat, obviously, to the officers by their actions of either shooting at the cops or pointing the gun at them, but to the public as a whole. And we have an obligation to protect ourselves and, of course, the public. So, we're protected by case law, by policy that allows us to use deadly force in certain scenarios like this. In this video, there's numerous people running through the parking lot, fear of being run over by this guy.
Talk to me about before that moment happens, right? About a school bus with a 6-year-old on board. That's got to change the way that police go about pursuing this suspect.
Yeah, and that's another reason I think at the conclusion of this, if you listen to the radio traffic that's going on just before the suspect crashes, you can hear somebody come on the radio and say, we have to stop this guy. You've got shots fired. He's clearly going after this one woman, keeps returning back to this bus lot. I'm making the assumption he's hoping to find her there to finish what he started. And listen, kudos to the wife or the ex-wife, whatever, her status is, because her defensive driving tactics probably saved her life and that kid's life by not allowing him to run them off the road and then, put the gun back into play with them.
The suspect had already shot at the bus before police got to the scene. Let's look at what happened again when he led officers on the chase.
Trying to run over the school bus. I believe the child fired shot at the school bus. Trying to ram it off the road.
Now, this happened in full view of the officer in the car there. But again, you see the officer staying back a bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's keeping, his distance. He obviously knows the person is armed. But, I want to compare this to an incident we actually happened here in Tulsa several years ago where we had an armed person that was in a car that had shot at people. And the way that thing came to a conclusion, there was an officer that took a point of, cover out in the roadway and actually shot the suspect as he went by. We've got to be innovative at times on what we can do to stop people that are a continuing threat to society like that.
And this suspect drove to that bus facility twice.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, he knew, his wife or estranged wife obviously worked there. Despite what was going on, was probably going to try to return the bus back there. And so he kept going back, hoping to find her. He was bent on trying to end this, probably with her death and obviously his own.
Yep. All right. Well, this in conjunction with what we saw happen again in Houston, a reminder, once again, what police officers deal with every single day. Sean Larkin.
Yeah, Dan,
as always. Go ahead, real quick.
Well, I'll say, yeah, that Houston area is really struggling. We've talked about the constable that was shot and killed. They had another deputy this week that was actually run over by a drunk driver, and then this.
Sean Larkin, thank you. Appreciate it. That does it for us tonight. News Nation Prime with Marnie Hughes starts right now. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.